Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's CC-Webinar.live keynote and panel discussion session, and thank you for joining. We would also like to thank Enxoo for sponsoring today's session. And now I would like to pass on the microphone to Eric to introduce the keynote speaker and later on to moderate the session. For audience, if you have any questions, please do use the chat box option throughout the session. That's all from my side. Eric, over to you.
Thank you very much, Laura, and welcome everybody out there. Today we're going to talk about the telecom industry in the digital age and how unifying sales experience can drive telecom operators' efficiency. So please stay tuned. It's going to interest you. For this, I'm very happy to have Arthur here with me from Enxoo, also the sponsor of this webinar, Matthias and James, and I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. So Arthur, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Laura. Pleasure being here. My name is Artur Ostrowski. I'm a Chief Commercial Officer at Enxoo. And Enxoo is a system integrator working with the Salesforce technology, helping carriers to achieve more efficiency on top of the Salesforce platform for their business operations.
Thank you very much, and welcome and good having you, Artur. Matthias, over to you.
Yeah, so thanks very much for having me. I'm currently the Chief Evangelist at Telia Carrier, one of the global carriers around, selling a lot of wholesale, but also some enterprise.
Thank you very much, Matthias. And then last but not least, James.
Hi, my name's James Grant, and I'm the Commercial Director and co-founder of Last Mile Exchange, and we are a software provider that provide automated quoting solutions to the telco industry.
Okay, good. And gentlemen, thank you and all welcome to this webinar, and happy to have you. So, ladies and gentlemen, talking about efficiency and efficiency challenges that the carriers are facing. How digital transformation impacts the traditional carrier business models and how companies prepare themselves for the digital age. So the new business models and strategies, this is what we all going to talk about. But that we're going to do later with Matthias and James and Arthur in the panel. But first, Arthur, over to you because you're going to share with us your keynote presentation of today. So Arthur, please share with us your presentation, and we're happy to listen into you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. If you could just confirm you can see the slide right now. Excellent. So just a few slides, not too many, because I think we are all here to listen to the discussion, not just slides, but to give a little bit of the framework. What I wanted to do is maybe share some of our experience and observations from working with the telecom industry in this digital age, and how focusing on unifying and exceeding in sales experience can help achieving more efficiency for telecom operators. I have already briefly introduced the company, but a little bit more just for you to understand where we are coming from. And when I'm talking about our experience, how is this experience accumulated? So we are a very telecom specific digital transformation provider. We are practically not working with other technologies, so pretty much the whole company focusing on helping telecom solution providers, and even more specifically, we are very selective in where we focus and what type of customers we work with. It's typically enterprise connectivity or wholesale, the carrier industry per se. We are not that much going into B2C operations for many reasons. We work with the Salesforce technology, where we are integrated this platform and the products of Salesforce, but at the same time we have developed our software on top of Salesforce, kind of Salesforce for carriers, where we are extending Salesforce with specific functionalities, business processes, and data model. And with this different industry approach, different to other system integrators, what we can offer to our customers is actually a better result in terms of business deliverables. We can definitely shorten implementation times. And last but absolutely not least, minimize the risk of failure, which with digital transformation is still quite significant. So, but let's go to the topic itself, digital transformation. And I think it is, well, or not maybe think, it is definitely a cliche saying that digital transformation is changing the world around us, because we can definitely see it. We can see it through how we shop. We can see it through how we move around, how we get food, how we relax, and pretty much all the other aspects of our daily life. If you look on how we perform or how we enjoy our life today, it's different than what it was 20 years ago. Yet, what is happening is that if we look on a carrier industry, can we say fundamentally that the carrier industry today is different than what it was 20 years ago? Have we progressed with the digital transformation in the same way as other parts of the or other industries? And I have to say that based on our observations, unfortunately, far too often we can still see the situation where salespeople are really tied up in a complex manual processes. They are using spreadsheets, tons of spreadsheets. The companies are sending those spreadsheets around like crazy via email. So the email becomes the digital platform for collaboration internally, but also externally. And I think we all agree that that's not probably the most efficient way of running the operations of carrier industry in a 21st century. So why is that? Why does it happen still that we can see such a different approach to digitization with B2C type of new services and offerings and the carrier industry? And there are probably many reasons, but there is one reason which makes it more difficult. The carrier industry became actually quite complex industry, where we are trying to provide the simplicity to our clients, because that's what the world, external world expects from us. But in order to provide simplicity, we are managing even more complexity internally. And this complexity comes from many things, starting with the type of services that carriers provide today is different than what it was 20 years ago. It's from homogeneous services to really heterogeneous solutions, where today, typically, even on a wholesale level, what we are selling is not only just a pure connectivity, but it's a connectivity often combined with the cloud security professional services, because this is what is required by the end customers, by the enterprise clients that are using those services. So the solution element, the ICT complexity of solutions has increased. Definitely, and that's my observations. I don't have any numbers to prove these, but that's a very solid observations. Nowadays, we are managing connectivity, networking that is far more hybrid. It's not just on-net networking. And it's driven by the changes, even the technology changes like SD-WAN and the network virtualization. Today, far more connectivity needs and the quoting needs are including the off-net part. That part is actually growing to that extent that we have recently announced together with LMX the partnership where we are combining our solutions to address this very issue, where today connectivity, the 50% of quoting includes this off-net element, and it's just becoming more and more difficult to manage such a complexity on a network level. Every deal is different, even though it would consist of a similar products or components. The fact of how those components are used in individual locations is different, and that requires a lot of attention on a deal level. Every single deal needs to be analyzed, needs to be designed, but by the end of the day needs to be properly costed, and the financial parameters needs to be checked individually on a deal level, not on aggregated on a network components on a product level. And all of that happens in the situation where, let's face it, most of us, we still have disjoint processes and systems, very, very complex system architecture. I often see a complexity consisting of tens, if not hundreds of systems for telco operators. And the same with processes that are bespoke processes for certain technologies or products, not very connected. And as you can probably imagine, that doesn't generate much of the efficiency that we wanted to talk about during the panel, or that we will talk about during the panel today. So how do operators try to manage this today? Well, they obviously start from the networking layer, and for a very good reasons. This is really absolutely the core of the operations, and this is what for the many years differentiated good or great service providers for more maybe those who've been the followers. Ability to build the network, ability to manage this network efficiently. And there was and there still is a lot of investment in the network. And actually the network layer is becoming more intelligent today. But what is happening, and what from our perspective is probably one of the sources of problems, is that if you look on a business layer, there is very often the underinvested BSS layer. We can still see a lot of clients who, okay, they may be invested in the CRM, or maybe even not. Maybe they are still using the Excels to manage customer data. Of course, they need some sort of a billing solution, because that's a hard process. That's a very tangible process that you have to address. But those systems are not interconnected very well. And in a way, those systems are becoming the systems of records. You just keep the information that is necessary for your operations, but there is very little on top of that. And when you look on your interactions with clients, obviously you have sales, you have account managers. Equally for partners, you have off-net or partner managers. But their reality is that they are just an overlay that is trying to overcome this process and system gap. Together with the colleagues that are managing very often the manual integration between those different layers, the business layer and the network layer, they are just using those manual processes and tools they have available in a very inefficient way to manage this complexity, kind of hide this complexity from the customer or from the partner. And when we are thinking about the efficiency of operations, this is what we actually try to change, and because we see a lot of opportunities. First of all, the opportunity lies in enriching your BSS layer, right? So going from the system of record to a system of intelligence, where it's not only that you store the data there, but you actually start to respect the data, and the data gives you the insight that improves your decision-making process. You start making data-driven decisions finally. But also, not less important is the automation part that can be enabled by introducing those systems and interconnecting those systems. And this automation can directly improve efficiency. Finally, what is also needed often, or can be seen as a following step, is when we are looking on this system of intelligence, you don't want only the system of intelligence to look on the business data. It is very important and very powerful, but if you add the integration with your production layer, then this is where you can actually both further increase the quality of your decisions, but also enable further layer of automation that brings the efficiency to the process, but also improves the customer experience. Finally, what could be done to achieve this greater efficiency for carrier operations is actually enabling the engagement layer. And engagement both for customers and partners, or let's face it, very often for the same partners who are both customers and vendors at the same time. So what we can provide the self-service and improve the automation, but improve also the transparency. And we can do this by having the direct link to the business and production layers and exposing those functionalities to our clients and partners, either through portal or through the APIs. And when talking about the APIs, then of course we are opening the huge discussion about the industry standards. When we think of what can be done to achieve greater efficiency, we cannot forget the industry standards for the APIs. And as a result, what we can achieve is that our sales and account managers and our partner account managers can really enjoy this greater efficiency. They can start building a better relations with your partners and customers. And the whole end game result is greater efficiency in terms of speed. And we all know that speed is absolutely key in carrier industry, but also efficiency in terms of cost reduction, lower OpEx. You can achieve greater operational visibility to improve your decisions. I was talking about those data-driven decisions, and that converts directly to better margins or better payback of the cash you spend, but also ultimately, it just makes you a better partner to work with, both for customers and partners, and through improved customer experience and providing a better trustworthiness to your partners, better predictability, reliability, and transparency. So that is pretty much our very, very high level view on where to seek and the efficiency improvements and efficiency gain for carrier industry. But the individual reality of individual clients will always be different. That's why it is important that to mention that when we work with clients, when we work with projects, it's never like a one size fits all. Every situation is different. And it's about choosing the right focus, the right steps. And a couple of the focus areas that are mentioned here on this page might sound like buzzwords, but it's not. It's really very much the daily life of us, where we are either working on a quoting transformation or sales process digitization, or we are working on the zero-touch order management, carrier APIs, a very important topic, or extremely important topic, the instant off-net access costing that can be improved to the greater extent with the tools like LMX or Enxoo, or integrated tools like ours, or a self-service enhanced partner view. So these are all the the areas that we are working with the clients more often, and when we are choosing the right approach and using the modularity of the approach to address what's actually bringing the most of the value for individual clients. And I think with that, I wouldn't like to go to more slides. And I think it would be great to, Eric, to hand over back to you and hear some of the comments from our colleagues on the panel.
Thank you very much, Artur, and thank you for sharing this valuable information in your presentation. So thank you for that. Now, question from my side. I mean, we all do know that let's say the carrier, the wholesale industry is not always the fastest in adapting, let's say, new technologies, new things. Yes, we like to talk to it, but to implement it and to go through a transformation, it's not always the easiest part, which I fully understand, especially with let's say the bigger carriers, the tier 1 carriers. So how is Enxoo actually perceived, and especially with, let's say, the value add you can bring? How do they? How is that moving? How is that going?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Eric, I agree with you in the DNA of our industry, and I'm saying our because I've spent 20-something years with being with carriers, different carriers, mostly in Europe, but also some other territories. So I've been there, and I know that the DNA is not very change-oriented, right? The telco industry is rather hesitant to change, and that comes from the fact that telco industry is a very heavy investment industry. It's a heavy capex industry. To build your fiber network, you need to put a lot of money in the ground, and the best thing you can do is you can hope that nothing changes, and you have a predictability, and the payback will come, right? Because you require a longer time perspective for this payback to return your investment. So I think it is natural that our DNA, our culture is maybe not the most challenging. Yet what we need to do is we need to understand that it is inevitable. We have to change, and the role of a partner like ourselves is actually to come up with a certain framework of how such change could happen. We've come up with best practices. The big value of what we do is being there multiple times, right? Doing this digitization in this very specific carrier environment number of times. So often what we see is that we are brought after a few attempts of doing this in-house, or maybe doing this with partners who are more generic partners and not necessarily focusing on industry. Maybe they would have a technology competence, but not necessarily industry vertical insights. And the clients, they like the thing that we speak the same language. We understand the products, we understand the complexity, and by doing that, they can trust us that we know what we are doing. And very often they are looking for our advice. It's not like they are doing the things that or they are fully handing over all the decisions to us, but they like us to inspire them or to show how it could be done in a different way than they've been doing before.
Okay, so but still the challenge is there for you guys, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Artur, again for sharing your keynote presentation. And if I may together with you, may ask Matthias and James to come to the floor as well, and let's move into our panel discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about the telecom industry in the digital age and how unifying sales experience can drive telecom operators' efficiency. So welcome, James and Matthias.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric.
So James, let me bump into you immediately. I mean, what from your point of view are the efficiency challenges that the carriers are currently facing, and if so, is it really on their eyeball? And are they really facing actually the challenges? What's your point of view?
Yes, I think Arta sort of touched on it earlier. One of the sort of the big challenges that we see is we do a lot of integration both between carriers and also within our customer base. And in particular, doing integrations within our customer base, the vast majority of our customers are the tier one global carriers, and they will have a huge amount of systems that range from legacy systems that have been in there 20 years to brand new shiny cloud systems, and trying to get everything integrated from a sort of a sales user perspective, so you can log in one place and just go through a sort of a journey without sort of falling off the digital journey is key, and it's very challenging. And then when you combine that with the sort of the attempts that, well, the area that we sit in, where we have to integrate with third parties to get the off-net quoting, it is very challenging to stay on the digital journey. And so we talk a lot about staying on the digital journey, because if you stay on that digital journey, the experience that you'll have is you'll be able to do your pricing in a matter of seconds or minutes. If you fall off the digital journey, then suddenly you're measuring things in days, weeks, and sometimes months. And Arta also sort of was talking about the sort of the change in society with the ability for people just to go and press a button and order things online. So my children are both 17 and 19, and they've grown up in a digital era where if they want something, they just get their phone. If they want to order food, they get their phone, they press a button, the order goes, they've got confirmation they've got the order, they know who's going to deliver it, they know exactly where it is. And it's an experience that I certainly didn't have when I was growing up, because when we were ordering food, you'd have to sort of place the phone call, and you didn't know whether or not your order had gone in the bin, and you'd spend sort of half an hour, 45 minutes staring out the window, wondering if that next vehicle is going to be your food delivery. And to a degree, that's what some salespeople still experience within the telco. They're sort of staring out the window, wondering when they're going to get something delivered.
No, absolutely, and nice of you to go back to the yellow pages. To search for who is going to deliver what. Thank you, James. Now, Matthias, obviously you being with a very big carrier at Telia, how are you actually facing the efficiency challenges, and are you working on it? Are you implementing them? Or is it still a bit on the slow side? Or what can you tell us?
Yeah, no, I think it's, I think Arthur and James was on the point here. And I think myself representing one of these carriers, I think, until a very, very kind of recently, you could be very manual in the carrier wholesale industry, and you can come away with it because you had good people working for you, and then the Excel sheets almost worked. You didn't really have to. If everyone is equally bad, then you can just be bad and keep on doing it. But I think what's happened the last couple of years, especially the last 5 years, is that there's been some newcomers coming into our space, and they come in with shiny brand new systems. They doesn't really add that much value in terms of the service itself, but the way they serve their customers and the speed they can serve their customers with, that's what they're killing all the telecom operators with right now. And I think all of us have now realized, we need to jump on the train right now to do this, because the challenges we have are the same as you guys have talked about before, speed of delivery, speed of quotes, all of that stuff is still what we need to do. But we need to do it with the legacy gear we have and everything that we have in our network. And I think that's a huge challenge for telecom operators right now, because the speed out there is very quick right now. 3 years ago, you could still come away with doing most of your stuff in Excel. Today, you can't do that. You need the accuracy of everything. And James talked about the customer journey. I think that's extremely important. I still see cases where you order an express delivery and yeah, you put that in a system, but that's forgotten later on in the customer journey. And when you call some technicians and ask him to speed up, he doesn't even understand why he should speed up. He always works between 9 and 11, and that's, so I think, yeah, companies like us are in for a ride right now. We just need to improve. And I can for sure tell you it's on our agenda. It's extremely important for us. And I think it's for every telco, because they've started to realize that, yeah, you can't be as slow as you've always been. It's a new world.
Matthias, and sorry, Eric, if I could comment
please,
to what Matthias said. I think that I'm afraid that still there are many people who think that you can deal the way you did the business before, even in a carrier industry. It's not like the industry will penalize for not having this digital transformation done today, right? There are still many people dreaming that, yeah, the Excel is good enough and I can probably survive another quarter or a year, and possibly they would. But the scary part is that digital transformation is not stopping, it's actually accelerating. I've read recently a study by McKinsey that during the last 12 months, we have seen the digital transformation equal to the 7 previous years in terms of the change, technology change and the digitalization. So that clearly shows that we are just started seeing the impact of this change. And yeah, so my comment was that we've been able to do this business on Excel 20 years ago, and some people still believe it's doable, right? And that the industry has not proven this wrong yet on a large scale. Yet I believe that this is a very risky bet to stay on this thinking.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. Now, Matthias, going back to you. I mean, you were mentioning that, for instance, at Telia, it is on the agenda, and most probably it's quite high on the agenda, because you have to face it, and you need to you need to do it, and you need to work on it. Now, I think also that the new technologies they push us, and they have a huge impact on our business models. Not only the demand from the people, but what they want things fast, and as fast as possible. But also the technologies are pushing and having a huge impact on our business models. So how is the digital transformation impacting the traditional carrier business models, and where do they stand now, Matthias?
Yeah, I think it's very different between different companies, of course. But I think for us, a couple of years ago, we realized that we have to do something about this, and we kind of sort of look through our systems and see where's the biggest impact, where do we really start. And I think Arthur mentioned that the CPQ is one piece. If you can configure and price and quote everything, that's a key way to get into these efficiencies. So I think what we did and what we learned is that we found a couple of partners to work with, but also beefed up our own IT department, and realizing that it's not going to be engineers and technicians to solve our problems in the future. We still need them. We are still a large carrier with a large network, so they are key for us to run the network. But we've also realized that we need to beef up on the sort of more traditional IT side, people who understand systems around. So that area has improved a lot. We obviously won't configure everything ourselves, so we still need partners like Enxoo and others to do this. But I think we realized that this journey is we need to do it ourselves. We can't ask anyone else to do it for us. I think traditionally 5-6 years ago, you went to an Accenture and you said, please help us do everything for us. And they came in with 200 software engineers and told us how to run our business. No, that's not working. They don't know that. So I think we're in the middle of that journey, I would say right now. It takes time. Getting accurate data throughout the systems is difficult. I think we're one of the lucky carriers that have never really bought anyone. We're just organically grown to where we are, so we only have the systems we have. There are others out there who have bought 5-6 companies and have 5-6 inventory systems, 5-6 CPQs, 5-6 of everything. I think we're but I think, everyone is kind of on this journey right now. And the funny thing, our customers are on the same journey. So we sometimes can relate our own problems to what their problems are. But it's a huge challenge. But at least if you beef up your own knowledge and your own staff, that's a good way to start. And I think that made it for us. And that's why we feel confident right now that we're going to go do it.
Okay. Thank you, Matthias. Now, James, the technologies are pushing and have a huge impact on the carrier business models. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, certainly. So we attend ITW every year when it's on, and back in about 2015, there was a lot of talk around supplier pricing automation, and everyone's sort of saying in 2 years' time everything's going to be sort of done via APIs. Now, we still see about 75% of the work or the suppliers we engage with are still sending things around in Excel. They don't have APIs. They are attempting to sort of build supplier pricing portals and connect to to the customers and also follow the the MEF standards. But it is very, very challenging. And I think one of the things that obviously Enxoo and Last Mile Exchange are trying to do is to provide these suppliers with off-the-shelf solutions so that they don't have to worry about trying to build in-house in-house solutions for problems that we've already solved. So a lot of the technology is out there. It's just a matter of applying it. Okay,
Arthur, you're facing this daily, of course. What's your take on this? Do you see it really changing the business models with the carriers?
I do. I think there are a couple of things that make the change in the carrier business model. Matthias, for example, mentioned the new players, which is actually enabled by technology, the network virtualization, the SD-WANs. That enables new people to step into the connectivity game, even without owning the network assets. So the technology definitely is impacting the way we do business today. And new competition requires adoption. We need to see how to position ourselves in this changed ecosystem. But also, not only SD-WAN, not only virtualization is bringing a lot of changes, but if you look on the world around us, as I started my presentation, it's getting digital. And this digital world is requiring more and more competence in addressing connectivity and networking element through the industry expertise, industry insight. Take the 5G with the edge computing. That's a new part of the market which is opening and which will produce a certain use cases that will require people who understand those use cases and can convert those use cases or can convert the network into providing the support for such use cases. Or IoT, the smart cities, or IoT for manufacturing. That requires a certain understanding, specific understanding of how to apply the connectivity and networking assets into very, very specific use case. And those use cases are popping up because the world is digitizing everywhere. So what I think is happening, one was this increased competition, but another one is increased specialization. And I believe there will be more and more specialization, even within carriers, where they would be trying to adopt to more vertical approach and understanding what type of use cases they are solving, right? Like the connectivity for the entertainment, for media is fundamentally different than the connectivity for cloud or for gaming, right? So I think this is also changing. And along those lines, we have people who are going into more niche specialization, maybe at this point more on a domestic level than the international level. But what you can see with the wholesale and retail separation, or the functional separation with the tower companies and the fiber companies, really gaining up the speed on many new markets where it was not discussed before. Well, that is changing how the industry works, or wholesale only providers who decide to increase their operational efficiency to the zero touch level and build their value proposition around that. So yes, there are many technology changes which are impacting a business models in the career industry, and that all of that requires changed approach, but also requires understanding that IT skills are becoming critical. Again, Matthias mentioned this just a moment ago, that Telia changed their thinking and started to build those competences internally, not building them everything themselves. They have partners like us and others, but there needs to be the IT skills needs to be a critical part of the competence that the company built and can convert and can understand how to employ IP to deliver business value. And that is a big change which needs to happen in terms of what type of people we are employing, the culture we are building in the organization.
Okay, thank you. So James, listening to what you're sharing with us out here, and moving ahead, how can the operators prepare themselves? I mean, and what are the main drivers?
Well, obviously, the main drivers are to try and sort of ensure that from the sales user's point of view, that you have sort of everything right first time and reduce cycle times for quoting, ordering, billing, provisioning. And a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our customers are the global tier 1 carriers, and they do have programs in place. But again, as Arthur said earlier, there are so many systems that they have that it's the importance of having that vision and the sort of using orchestration layers to try and bring everything together so that you have a sort of a seamless integration. And then I appreciate I probably bang on about this a bit, but we then look at things not only within sort of internal with global carriers, but also with their with their partners, trying to integrate with them. And so it is the challenge of trying to get the industry to move forward as one is one of our biggest obstacles.
Okay, Matthias.
Yeah, no, I agree with what these guys said, but also the fact that, and as Arthur alluded to this, when we talk about 5G and IoT and edge, the funny thing there is that area sometimes is not even driven by the telcos anymore. It's driven by OTTs and others, and I think that's probably the biggest challenge going forward. If I think about the edge network in a national country, who is actually going to build that? If you want Google and Facebook to use your edge, are you as a national provider the best solution for them? Do they really trust you? They sometimes don't. Maybe they will build that edge. Who's going to build 5G networks? Anyone can apply for a spectrum these days, and you can. So I think that's going to be a huge challenge for telcos going forward, and therefore this journey of becoming digital, that needs to go really quick, because these companies were born digital, and their customer journeys have always been not perfect, but it's been close to sometimes, or at least people perceive them as perfect. And that's going to be an extreme challenge. And I think really, that's just, I can't really see in the next coming years what that's going to happen and who's going to build that. I think telcos still have an opportunity to be the one building 5G networks and edge solutions, but they really need to do it very efficient and quickly, and take advantage of companies like James' company that provide solutions on an already existing big problem, instead of trying to figure out a way to building that themselves. But I think it's going to be one of the biggest challenges, probably not from the telcos themselves, much more from the outside world, new companies coming in.
Yeah, and the push will be there, of course, and. So again, target time to market is really, really important. Arthur, anything you want to complement on this one? Where do you see the drivers, and how can companies prepare themselves? Anything to add? What the guy said?
Yeah, so maybe I will not comment on the drivers because we talked about it already for a few minutes during this discussion, but more on how can companies prepare themselves. Well, we talked about digital transformation being the fact and in inevitable future of all of us. But at the same time, there is a difficult part of the transformation, and if you again look on some statistics or studies, there was a study in 2018 that said that 75% of those digital transformations projects are actually failing. And that is not a very good statistic, right? That's a real number, but that's not very encouraging. So when you think of your company and what you can do, I think it makes sense to spending a little bit of the time on understanding this change management and understanding how to run the bigger program, and not necessarily treating this as a one-off IT system change, because if you approach the problem from that perspective, that's very likely you will end up with this 75%. But really, how do you build the culture and the program of the continual transformation of your business, the business transformation, and how do you convert it into different phases? The planning phase, where most of us actually we are able to define the goals that we want to achieve, but maybe sometimes even those goals are not very clear. But then going into execution, and when it comes to execution, there are a couple of fundamental things that could go wrong, starting with poor engagement of the key stakeholders, and I've seen this couple of times where the daily life is so occupying that is very difficult to dedicate enough time. And if you don't, then your organization will not follow. Going through the access to talent, and by talent I mean the people who have the experience with digital transformation for career industry, but also going down to culture and methodology. How do you deliver those projects, those transformation projects? And how do you work with your partners? That's a big thing, and we have a lot of observations around the right delivery methodology. Finally, the last element, which is often forgotten, maybe not forgotten, but at least not taken seriously enough, is how do you run the post-implementation phase in terms of making sure that you spend enough time on adoption, on data quality, on making the system live, because it's so easy to build a system and then feed it with the wrong data by not putting enough attention to adoption. So my sort of, if I could do advice, but if I wanted to emphasize what companies can do to prepare themselves for this digital transformation, treat those digital transformation projects seriously and think about those phases I mentioned, and choose your moves in the right way.
Okay, thank you. We want to stay with you, Artis. So going to the next step, how do you see and how will the new or the renewed, let's say, models, or even let's say, talk about more about the strategy, how will it look like?
Right. So of course that's a bit of the trying to read from the crystal ball, but we can all try to do that. I definitely think that there will be much more partnering and a sort of ecosystem approach. So the complexity of the world we are living in and the technology changes are forcing us to partner more, and it could be partnering on different layers. Could be partnering on a sort of a vertical layer where you simply look for other telcos, other carriers to to work with to provide a better footprint. But it could be also a sort of other type of partnering where you look on how you build the value proposition with different partners, or how you run those transformation programs. But maybe if I could also add a couple of things that I believe in future will play a bigger role, which is sort of everywhere operations that kind of proven by the last 12 months. We already know that that all the businesses needs to be accessed and ready to deliver from anywhere. But that also means that we need to provide the solutions that enable others, our clients, to deliver from anywhere. I think there is a growing importance of the experience, and very often we talk about the customer experience, but I would extend it to like a total experience, where the customer experience is one element of it, but the other part, very important, is employee experience, or the end user experience. So those are the areas that will play a bigger role in future. Finally, the data will be becoming even more important. Data. So I was talking about this system of record, going from system of record to system of intelligence, where you treat the information and you actually enable the information. You enable the access to the information, but then you are able to process this information and create a better insight from this information. But the final part is you have the ability to respond based on those insights. So the data-driven approach will be playing even bigger role than today.
Okay, James, what's your take on it? How the new or maybe renewed business models or strategy will look like?
Yeah, as Arthur said earlier, what we're seeing is that a lot of the carriers are now beginning to sort of work together much better than they have done in the past, and you can see that when we integrate with particular carriers, you can see that they've had a problem that they've been trying to solve, and they've solved it in a particular way that met that individual carrier needs. And then when you start trying to integrate it with it for other carriers, you run into problems. But now, certainly over the past few years, we have seen that there is now the awareness that anything that you do within a particular telco is going to have to plug into an industry ecosystem. So that's one of the sort of key changes. And the other point Arthur touched on, well, he mentioned it earlier, is the maintenance. Maintenance isn't glamorous. Everyone likes rolling out shiny new systems, and they get a big pat on the back when they show this new system. But if you don't maintain the data within the system, then it becomes worthless.
Thank you. No, that's absolutely true. Matthias?
Yeah, no, I think Arthur kind of alluded to it as well. You know, I think there is a change we're seeing right now that's coming slowly, and that's for the carrier wholesale industry to kind of divide itself into two tracks. One being more infrastructure driven, connectivity driven, and we're certainly on that track, trying to be the best we can in the connectivity world and just focus on that. And then we have some of the traditional telcos who've been kind of everything, both the service layer and the connectivity and the infrastructure layer, and they will be in for a rough ride if they continue to believe that they can serve every customer with everything. I think we're more in for an ecosystem in the future where everyone is doing their part, and we need to work together. Like James said, you know, connect each other's networks and make that a smooth ride for everything. But I think, you know, the ones that's going to select the service layer to be there and have great customer journeys, they have to jump on the digitalization train right now to become really good, because they're going to fight with completely new players with brand new systems, shiny everything, and that's going to be really. But I think, you know, we will see a more of some of the carriers will take this connectivity track only and try to be not taking care of applications for customers, but just making sure that they're connected to every cloud they want to be connected to, and not do anything more with that. But that's and for us in the carrier industry, we just need to work as efficient as possible using everyone else's network, because we all need every network we have to serve our customers in a happy way. And yeah.
But do you also see there's some knowledge? I mean, when we see more and more partnering in our business model, do you also see some, let's say, more knowledge sharing with that?
I actually do. I think we have more honest discussions with our kind of competitors than we've ever had before, you know. And if there's anything we can learn from our competitors and we can learn them, I think we're happy to share that. Very different from many years ago when we all fought and we all tried to hide everything we did because we were going to do everything ourselves. I think we're much more understanding that, you know, we will never be strong in some parts of the world, and if we find the right partners for them, why not share what we do well in the parts where we are the owner of the networks. And I think we've kind of realized, all of us, that that's the only way to survive for us. No one can rule the world alone, and that's good. And then of course there are some things we want to keep secret so we can have that extra sauce for our customers, but most of it will be very transparent.
But but the partnering is also let's say an example of you know, being under pressure and being more efficient. So that's only good. James, what do you see for, let's say, 2021, 2022 and onwards? What will we see? What will we experience? Will the train hit us even harder, go faster, or tell us a little bit about the future?
One thing that we've got our eye on at the moment is the sort of the impact of the increase in digitization. So there are more and more carriers who are integrating with each other. And you know, there are still thousands of carriers to join the party, and we are seeing that carriers behave in different ways, and there's a need to be considerate towards the you know, towards the industry, especially in the quoting arena, where we see some carriers will send over 1,000 requests in 5 seconds, and systems can't handle it. So there's you know, and then you've got multiple carriers doing the same thing. So there is a need for the industry to work together to make sure that things are done to, you know, considerately, to make sure that sort of people behave well for the industry.
Thank you so much. Matthias, your crystal ball predictions.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is a trend right now in a lot of enterprises that do it yourself is the way forward. And I think what we in the carrier industry, in the wholesale industry, in the telco industry, what we have to do now in the next coming years is to prove to the enterprises that it's good to have a service provider to work with, that they need someone like us to call when something goes wrong. Right now, they don't really believe that. They believe they can do everything themselves. I think we have a job to do right now. And the only way to do that is to work with partners and prove to them that we are still worthy of being their service provider.
With the highest quality of service, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matthias. Now, Arthur, some famous last words. What's out there? What are we going to see?
Yeah, I think still more competition, but at the same time, more specialization and more collaboration and building then ecosystems where you start playing your role together with your partners and addressing this specialization that delivers industry flavor to your end customers.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're heading to the end of this Enxoo webinar today. And first of all, I would like to thank Arthur Otrowski, the CEO of Enxoo, for his keynote presentation. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, career community, for organizing this session. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
More than happy to do this, and so thank you for that, and thank you Enxoo for sponsoring this. I always would like to thank dearly Matthias Fridström, for the chief evangelist of Telia Carrier, and James Grant, the commercial director and co-founder of Last Mile Exchange. So gentlemen, thank you very much. And for being with us on this panel. It has been an honor, and thank you for the knowledge sharing you did with all of us.
Thank you, Eric. Dear all, we are at the end of this webinar session, and I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Artur, for his interesting presentation, our panelists for sharing the knowledge, and our audience for participating and listening. This panel will be soon available to watch on our CC Media portal. We are looking forward to welcoming you in both physical and virtual events this year. For more information, please visit event portals. If you're interested in supporting and sponsoring one of our future branded webinars, contact CC team. For all updates and fresh content, please follow us on our 4 social media channels. Also, subscribe to our Telegram news channel to receive exclusive invitations to the CC-Webinar live session. That's all for today. Goodbye.